Welcome to my channel. So today's video has to do with permaculture practices and the ethics of permaculture and how that can be applied. So recently here in Monterey County in California, in the United States of America, we had a major windstorm and a flooding storm come through. We had lots of rain, lots of wind, more than I've ever seen. We got classified as hurricane level gusts. And when the hurricane level gusts came through, which were intermittent, they knocked the trees down. I don't know if you know anything about Monterey, California, but we're a heavily forested zone. We get 21 inches of annual rainfall per year, roughly. We've been in a drought fairly consistently for the last 37 to 40 years with minor intermittent water put in. And but our trees are doing great. We have lots of them. Lots and lots and lots of trees. But the trees don't get to experience high winds like that all the time. Even though we're on the coast, we're in roughly the middle of California. And we're roughly 36 degrees latitude, give or take, depending on where you're at. We typically don't get winds there that strong. This last windstorm was terrible on the Monterey cypress. Monterey cypresses were falling all over the place. Branches were breaking off. Whole trees were coming down. The Monterey pine didn't fare too well either. These are really tall trees. They can get up into the 40 and 60 foot range. And if you think the wind is bad at ground level or sea level, it's a lot worse at 60 feet. Anybody that has a wind farm that's generating electricity for wind will tell you that their wind generators, to get non-turbulent regular flow of high velocity air, the minimum height that a wind turbine has to be is 60 feet in the air. That's a minimum height. You can have them lower, but you're going to get turbulence, choppy air, inconsistent flow. So if you can imagine hurricane gusts coming in at sea level, then what was it at 60 feet? It's going to be worse. Okay, it's going to be higher. And so that was the problem that we faced. So a lot of large branches came down. How does this tie into permaculture? Well, there's only so many arborists and so many tree trimming companies out there. And the city used them all. They had to chop down trees for power lines, for roads. They had to clear roads. So all of these forestry people there's no getting them to come to your job without paying them a lot of money. And I don't mean a kind of sort of amount. We're talking $2,000 to $5,000 for them to show up just to say hi because they're on so many other jobs. At that point, they haven't even chopped the tree down or mulched whatever material you want. They're just showing up for $2,000 to $5,000. Well, that's not reasonable, but I understand the supply and demand chain problem. And that's where us in the permaculture field come in, because we have skills and we have knowledge and we know how to do things. And some of us are skilled woodsmen and welders and fabricators and craftsmen, and we can clear debris and do things, and we can do it at a fraction of the cost to our community. Now, this does not mean we lose money. We need to be economically profitable, but we don't need to destroy our customer to do so. So recently we had in Marina, we had a cypress tree lose a large limb, and it took out a shed and the back portion of a fence. And the insurance company said, fine, clear the debris. We'll come look at it. And they called me and said, the homeowner called me and said, hey, trim it up. I said, okay. Took 2.5 days. There's going to be a total of 3 dump runs with a standard 8-foot by 4-foot truck bed, hauling out full piles. The truck doesn't have sideboards, so luckily that was an economic cost that was low because our dumps received the material at really low cost because they turned into wood chips and then turn around and sell it back to the community. So in the Monterey County, I was able to dump, let's see, I think I have the receipts right here. So the first load was 3/8 or 30% of a ton is only 760 pounds. That's only $17.75. The second one was 740 pounds. It's even less. And that was $17.25. So a grand total of $35 to remove the material and put it at the dump for the dump fees, the receipts. I'm going to have one more dump fee, and it'll come in around the same thing. So $35 plus, say, 17 is 45, 50. It's going to be about $52 in dump fees. Okay, so just bear with me. $52 in dump fees. It's 2.5 days of labor. We charge the lowest rate we can for our community because we want our community to do better. We don't charge $100 an hour for this type of service. We charge somewhere in the $25 an hour range. So it's about $450 and $50 in dump fees. So it's roughly $500 in cost to the client. So about $500 in cost for the client. The client's happy. The insurance company can come in. They can do an assessment. They can work up what needs to be replaced and repaired by a contractor. And everybody's happy. In our modern world, a lot of tradesmen are being pushed to the side because of money. A lot of those of us that are highly skilled laborers can't get the work because it costs too much to operate, or it costs too much to run the truck, the fuel, the gas, to buy the truck, to own the truck, whatever. We're being pushed to the side. That does not mean we cannot be of benefit to our community. It just means we have to change our business models, because our business models cannot collapse our local economy. And right now in California, in February of 2024, the state has mandated minimum wage increases. Those minimum wage increases are creating an upward spiraling cycle of costs that everybody's affected by. Food's going to go up, fuel's going to go up, housing is going to go up, any tool item is going to go up. Whatever you're going to buy is going to go up because they have to pay for higher wages for individuals. Now, whether you're for that or against that is not what I'm discussing. I'm discussing the fact that we in the permaculture system do not destroy our clients with costs. Now, just because I have a very high cost of doing business doesn't mean I transfer all that cost to the client and just wash my hands of it. Some of it I have to take on, and I have to deal with that. In the meantime, what happens is that the client is happy. The client offers you more work. As you get more work and you do more of it, gently moving forward, the client usually will give you another job, or they'll give you another client. And if we in the permaculture field can keep the costs down, we can reduce the labor costs and the materials costs for doing things, we can actually tip our scales back to level for inflation. That means there's a lot of people that have to get involved in the permaculture system. And right now, it doesn't feel like that's happening. It feels like permaculture is a thing that's off to the side and not understood and not practiced. But this comes down to the ethics of permaculture. First ethic is you take care of the planet. Without the planet, we don't have anything. Take care of the planet and the systems of the planet. That way we can survive and thrive. 2, take care of the people of the planet and the systems the people require and need to survive and thrive. And 3, any surplus that we gather from the first 2 ethics, we put back into the first 2 ethics. So this is relating to the job that I'm speaking of, because as I reduce the cost for the client, they're better off. They don't have a sudden high expense for something that was not planned. They don't have to freak out about how to make an extra $3,000 or $4,000 for the month that they don't make. You can't just randomly, poof, here's $3,000. Poof, here's $5,000. Poof, here's another $10,000. They don't have it. Most people do not have this. They cannot just poof money into existence. So for all those contractors out there that are excessively charging their clients, there's gonna be a tipping point where people can't pay you, and you're gonna go out of business, or you're gonna change your model, or you're gonna go out of business. Something's gonna happen. Something's gonna give, because the increased inflation rate is an impossibility to maintain. So, reduced cost of living. The client is happy. They don't have to panic about bringing in a crew that's going to cost them thousands of dollars to remove a branch. It is done safely. The branch is now on the ground. It's been chopped up into little pieces. 80% of the branch is at the dump. I have about half a day's work and 1 dump fee to go. So that'll roughly tune into that $500. In the meantime, the storm action gives us in the permaculture field an opportunity to gather materials. So for instance, in the event that I had a plot to put this material in, I would not have taken it to the dump. I would have taken it to the plot, would have put it on the plot, would have shredded it, chopped it up, done something with it, but I have no plot. So for me, taking the material to the dump, the recycling system, gives them the opportunity to recycle it and sell it to someone inexpensively as wood chips or mulch, which goes back to the community and helps support the community. So I supported a local business, and I support our local community in doing so, and I get some support from our local community to do this without overcharging. What I've seen recently in recent times is that the contractors that are doing work inside of our community in the Monterey Peninsula and the greater San Jose area are overcharging. And I don't mean kind of, sort of, maybe ish overcharging, or by like, oh, it's $100. No, we're talking way overcharging. Like, we're getting quotes in the plumbing industry where there's companies out there that replace water heaters for clients. And 20 years ago, a water heater was $300. 15 years ago, a water heater was $350. It wasn't much more expensive. More recently, the water heaters have jumped up to $1,200. So they've gotten quite a bit more expensive recently. Who knows why that is? It's a price increase. But here's the typical breakdown for a water heater replacement. The water heater 20 years ago was $300 plus 1.5 hours worth of labor. Hour and a half. With drive time, maybe 2 hours. Let's just call it a flat 2 hours to replace a water heater. Okay? So you have $300 and 2 hours of labor by a contractor. Okay? Now there's another part to this, because there's parts included. It's about $150 in parts to replace a water heater, because you've got to get the hoses, and you've got to get, special fittings, and TPR valves, and whatever, pans and things. You got to get parts for the water heater to be installed, strapping and stuff to the wall if it didn't have it. Now all code has double straps. So some water heaters still only had a single strap, so you had to have a double strap. You have to have this pressure relief valve. You have to have a temperature relief valve, whatever. Temperature pressure relief valve. You have to have a valve for flushing your water heater, and you have to have connections to outside. Okay? So there's some copper tubing, and nowadays they use like PEX and stuff like that, maybe. Whatever, doesn't matter. The parts to do that, to completely install a water heater with the water heater, is about $150. So you have 20 years ago, you had $300 plus $150 in parts. That's $450 plus 2 hours of labor at say $100 an hour. So that's $200. So that's $450, $650. If you had something slightly go wrong, let's call it an even $700 to replace a water heater, a 30 to 50 gallon water heater. Just for generality's sake, $750 by a trained professional. $700, sorry. A trained professional, $700, complete, done, sign the contract, pay the man. Not the end of the world, expensive. Okay? Fast forward 20 years, from 2004 to 2024, the water heater is $1,500. Okay. So it's $1,500 for the water heater. It's still $150 in parts. So it's $1,650 for parts and the water heater. And it's still only 2 hours of labor for the contractor. And if he's still only at $100 an hour, that only adds $200. So that's 15, 16, 17, 18. Let's call it an even $2,000 out the door. Even $2,000 out the door. Maxing out, adding tax, drive time, whatever. $2,000 is a reasonable expectation to replace a water heater in 2024 due to the cost of the water heater. Okay? But because contractors are unscrupulous, we're getting these types of quotes by phone without them even seeing the water heater, seeing the condition of the water heater, or whether it just needs a service or not. The quotes are coming back like this. Hi, I'm looking to buy a water heater. That'll be $7,000. Oh, wow. I think I won't use you. Click. Huh? Click. And then they call us. Hi, we're looking to replace a water heater. And we're like, yeah, we can do it. Takes about 2 hours. It's about $7,000. Hey, or it's about $2,000. Hey, $2,000 sounds a lot better than 7. We'll use you. Click. The problem is homeowners are being scammed by contractors for things that are simple like water heaters. And they're overcharging by double, more than double. If it's $2,000 for the water heater replaced, and the contractor's charging $7,000, that's 3.5 times more money for the same job. And this is not just in water heaters. We're finding it in home heating systems, HVAC. So there's water heaters, HVAC. We're getting supposedly reputable companies that are just like going to charge outrageously high sums of money. It's not realistic. It's not ethical. It's not appropriate. But above all, it's not sustainable. And these companies just seem to be making money. Oh, we're doing fine, yeah. Well, that's because somebody is paying them $7,000 for a $2,000 water heater repair or replacement. That's not ethical. It's not appropriate. It's not ethical. And when I work with contractors that have scruples or they have some ethical, moral compass, they don't overcharge. Yes, they have to add their 20 or 30% on top to keep the lights on, but 20 or 30% on top of $2,000 is $2,600 at max. That's it. That's the extra $600 they made on that water heater for having a business open. They don't go through charging 3.5 times the amount for replacing a water heater. So I want people to think about this because quote unquote reputable companies are way overcharging clients right now. And we're catching them. Those of us that are working in the construction field are catching unscrupulous, active contractors overcharging at outrageous rates. And it's just because there's a demand does not mean it's an acceptable business practice. And we need to change that model back to something normal. That way we can reduce inflation and make things reasonable for the cost of living. This is just stuff to think about and stuff to know about, but we need an ethical, moral, guided system for our economic base. Without ethics and morals, what does the 94-year-old little lady that's on retirement sum, that's lived here her whole life, who has nobody vouching for her, what does she do when somebody charges her $7,000 while she's on a fixed income and she has to have hot water? Stuff to think about. If you like this kind of content, leave a comment below. You can always like and subscribe. That's cheap enough. If you don't like this kind of content, find a different channel.